I am John Hussey, Chair of the Human Resources Board. I will be presenting motions for Article 4, Classification Plan, and Article 5, Salary Plan. The Classification Plan comprises job groups with associated hourly rates or annual salary ranges for non-union town employees and is the subject of Motion 1. Town meeting members were mailed a full motion which sets out the entire plan with all jobs listed. Detailed job descriptions are developed for each position in order to position it in the appropriate job group. The Human Resources Board is responsible for ensuring that the town's job classification plan is comprehensive and reflects any changes in jobs performed in the town's departments. The classification actions that follow are ones that have been reviewed and approved by the HR Board and have been implemented by the relevant departments since last year's town meeting. This motion asks for approval of 5 different kinds of actions, each of which I'll describe. These new positions primarily reflect departmental reorganizations. Potential budget impacts are evaluated by the appropriate department during the hiring process. Departments, with the guidance of Human Resources, develop new or revised job descriptions, which are placed in job groups based on changes in responsibilities and job requirements. The Human Resources Board reviews and votes on these changes. For example, the position of Assistant IT Director was deleted and replaced with an Applications and Project Manager position in the same job group. The new position will play a more direct role in developing and managing solutions which support town employees and in their delivery of services. The Health Department has added resources and restructured the department to provide more focused leadership for each of their major functions. Funding for the Senior Community Social Worker position was approved at a special town meeting last year in response to recommendations from the town-wide Mental Health Study Committee. The other Health Department positions shown here are position upgrades. These changes are not in response to the COVID-19 situation having occurred earlier in the year. This is the revised organizational chart for the Board of Health. The changes to the department, with the introduction of the Senior Community Social Worker, Senior Environmental Health Specialist, and Public Health Administrator, are circled in red. Reclassifications are changes in job group based on revised job descriptions which may include updated job duties and responsibilities and changes to the minimum qualifications of the positions. Further changes to sustainable energy positions are described on the next slide. These positions were both reclassified, similar to the previous positions, but also had updated job titles to better reflect the job duties and responsibilities. For example, the change to the sustainable energy positions was initiated by the SEC as significant additional responsibilities were added to those job descriptions. These positions were deleted from the job classification because they were vacant and no longer needed. No funds are committed based on this motion. The HR Board will make 3 motions under Article 5, all dealing with the town's compensation plans for non-union town employees. Motion 1 of Article 5 amends the pay schedule for job groups 40 to 49. This pie chart gives you an idea of the breakdown of the town's permanent employees. As of January, the town had about 1,310 employees. This number excludes seasonal and temporary workers such as crossing guards, parking meter attendants, and substitute teachers. The HR Board motions that I will present address compensation for the 40 series employees, shown on the pie chart in orange, and the 50 and 60 series employees, shown on the pie chart in yellow. Together, these non-union town employees make up about 10% of the total town workforce. These are the communities that we typically use in compensation comparison based on size and other characteristics, as well as potential competition for high-quality staff. One result of our annual benchmark study is the recommendation for the annual increase shown on the next slide. Another outcome is an assessment of the competitiveness of our pay for specific positions. We use that information to make recommendations to department heads about individual adjustments to ensure we remain competitive. The first motion presents the recommended wage schedule for employees in the 40 series and reflects a 2.5% increase for FY21. There are about 50 40 series employees. These are non-exempt employees who hold positions such as office support, customer service staff, and fire mechanic. They make up approximately 3% of the total workforce. These employees are paid on an hourly basis on a schedule that has 6 steps for each job group. Step increases are granted for each year of service. Of the about 50 employees, 26 are at the highest step. Each step is about a 4.55% increase. This slide shows the pay increases that town meeting has approved over the last 4 years for the 40 series employees. The HR board is given the responsibility under the town bylaws to recommend to town meeting actions to maintain fair and equitable pay levels. To do this, we annually survey the pay rates for similar positions in comparable communities and consider predictions on inflation, collective bargaining agreements in Wellesley and other towns, and regional projections from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Over the last several years, we gradually made up a slight lag in compensation for this group of employees compared to our peer communities and have become more competitive. When we reviewed the updated data from our 2020 survey in the fall, we saw that we were competitive in the market with our compensation program and the amount employees in similar jobs are being paid in other communities. Additionally, our range structure is accurate and on par with the average maximums other towns offer. Our average actual salaries for the 40 series were about 1% lower than the average actual salaries of our comparables. The 2.5% increase will enable us to keep pace with our peer communities and is consistent with union-based increases in town. The funds required to support these increases for employees in the 40 series have been incorporated in the various departments' FY21 budget requests under Article 8. The second motion presents the recommended adjustments to the pay schedule for job groups 50 through 69, which comprises town managerial and professional employees. As we saw before, Series 50 and 60 employees account for about 7% of the town workforce. The employees in job groups 50 through 69 are paid within the salary range that is associated with their job group. They are not eligible for any type of automatic increase, such as a cost of living adjustment, step increase, or length of service payment, and a change to this salary schedule does not automatically change anyone's pay. The ranges are constructed around a midpoint, which is a dollar figure that we believe represents the approximate market rate for that job level. As I've just described, we conduct regular surveys to investigate where those market levels are. Our benchmark surveys look at how comparable communities structure their compensation for positions that are similar to those in Wellesley, as well as the amount that's actually paid to the incumbents in those positions. We make range adjustments to keep our salary structure aligned with the market. This is to ensure that we can both attract qualified candidates by offering competitive salaries and reward and retain valued, high-performing employees. The town's Information Technology Department has a separate pay scale which is modeled on the same principles as our 50 and 60 series pay scale. Based on the benchmark data, as well as inflation predictions, we are proposing a range adjustment of 2.5% for FY21. This 2.5% increase is applied to the midpoint of the range, and the minimum and maximum for each job group is built out from there. The benchmark data we collect indicates that despite constraints on municipal budgets, the market continues to increase modestly. We believe the 2.5% adjustment is appropriate at this time given our position relative to our peer communities and our assumption on inflation. Again, these adjustments do not increase any employees' pay, they just increase the ranges. We are proposing an average salary increase of 2.5% for 50 and 60 series employees, which will be discussed in more detail in Motion 3. Motion 3 appropriates funds to the Human Resources Board for the purpose of granting salary increases to employees in job groups 50 and above in the classification plan. This motion provides the funding for two purposes. $157,500 would be used for merit increases for the 50 and 60 series employees based on the employee's performance and standing in the range, and $20,000 would be used as a reserve fund for other possible salary adjustments for the 50 and 60 series employees. First, I'll discuss the $157,500 for merit increases. The $157,500 will allow for an average increase of 2.5% for the 50 and 60 series employees. As I mentioned before, this is not an automatic increase. The HR Board develops a matrix that takes into consideration both the employee's performance evaluation and his or her standing in the range. These two factors are used in the matrix to determine recommended percentage increases. The individual departments then use these guidelines in making the salary recommendation for each 50 and 60 series employee. A top performer whose salary is low in his or her range will get a higher percentage increase than a performer with the same performance evaluation who is high in the range. This matrix is a tool in our pay for performance system that is intended to recognize and reward employees based on their contributions, and in doing so retain their services over the long haul. This chart shows last year's appropriations for the town's managerial and professional employees. The $157,500 we are requesting will allow employees at a minimum to retain their standing in the pay range for their job and, as indicated by the quality of performance, to move up in their ranges. The second part of the funding under this motion is for $20,000 for salary adjustments that, for various reasons, were not anticipated at the time that budgets were made. Town departments are required to budget their personal services dollars based on the information they have 6 or 7 months before the start of the fiscal year. When situations arise later, such as a reclassification or unanticipated promotion, the department, especially a small department, may not have funds in the budget to compensate the employees the bylaw and salary plan require. The HR Board has been able to assist with the transfer of a small amount of funds when necessary. This allocation also has been used to make salary adjustments when our analysis indicates that an employee is not being paid a fair and equitable wage in relation to comparable positions in other towns. Finally, this reserve is sometimes used to pay for temporary help when an employee of a small department goes on medical leave. This appropriation also helps us to make adjustments in compensation to remain competitive. Human Resources is constantly monitoring the municipal labor market. This research includes gathering market data and reaching out to the appropriate department head or board chair to discuss if a review is necessary. Just because a position is below market doesn't mean the position will receive an increase. There is often a good reason why the position has been placed at that compensation level, whether it be an employee with less education or perhaps an employee still learning the position. This slide shows the breakdown of our $177,500 appropriation request.